those questions are probably the most pertinent questions that arise when one reflects on the movie. So I'm going to address them very specifically. The aspect of Sharda being sawn in half is actually very important. You know, some 350 years ago, Matti Das was sawn in half because he refused to convert. Sati Das was sawn in half because he refused to respond to this same demand. And Tegh Bahadur Ji sacrificed his own life and much more in response to this medieval barbarism. And by demonstrating that that's what came into the valley and highlighting it, we are allowed to then say, hang on a moment, is it possible to reform an ideology which is so deeply embedded in sanskar in a very skillful manner? So I think that was an incredibly important scene. The second thing was about what do we do about it? The question. It's very simple, right? I have said that this is an invitation to everybody to engage, either lead or follow. Find people who you find attractive, charming, mercurial, aggressive, troublesome enough, or whatever. But find people who are stepping forward and exposing themselves, making themselves vulnerable, and support them. Or there's so much work to be done, step forward and lead. It's not a difficult thing. It's a project like any other project. Either you can engage with skills or resources or whatever is necessary, but please do something. That's very simple. It's not complicated. What to do next should be a very simple answer. The other thing about why haven't we done something? It's been 75 years. Whose fault was it, etc. It's a very pertinent conversation. But I came up with an understanding, and that was simply this. I never find fault with any aspect of our own Sanatani family. As a civilization, we have been subjected to violence on every single scale and every level. No other civilization has withstood with some sort of identity still bearing a shred of integrity. We still have that. We are entitled to a few flaws. We are entitled to suspicion. We are entitled to feeling vulnerable. We are entitled to being traumatized. All of these are characteristics of a traumatized identity. So we have absolutely got to adhere to the mantra that whatever difficulties we have had with each other, whatever flaws there are, put them to one side. They are irrelevant. We're entitled to them. Let's enjoy them and embrace them and heal each other. So there are plenty of other people to find fault with. Our family, we should not be the ones doing it. The opposition is always ready to say, well, Hindus have all these high values. We're going to hold you to them, while we hold no values whatsoever because we're not bound by values. You know, let's just move beyond that. One other thing, who's going to do this? There are people who relish this sort of a conflict. They define themselves, they grow in this conflict, they find the capacity to actually expand and fulfill their dharma in this conflict. When swadharma and swabhav unite in a person, they grow. And often it's the background, it's the foundation, it's the ground, it's the battle, which will allow that to happen. Please find people who are doing this. We see Vivekji, his swadharma, his swabhava, his karma, everything has united. And when he produced what he did with the integrity that he brought to his project, just look at the impact of it. In conclusion, one last thing. We do not need every single Sanatani to be united. I made the point about toxic minorities. In every population, maybe 10% are the people who guide and nudge and direct the activities of a whole civilization. It's not very many people. All we need is to find that small number who are doing the work, allow them to cooperate, support them, bring them together, and they will do everything else. If you don't believe that, just look at the impact of Vivekji's team. They are so tiny, and yet they have set human consciousness ablaze. The universe, Brahmand, it doesn't need all of us to be signed up to a uniform vision behind one united leader who is going to tell us what to do. That's not how it works. Diversity works in a different manner. Our diversity is what has preserved us. Our diversity is what has kept us alive. All we need to do is learn how to cooperate. And to some degree, it's a little bit like that famous adage, isn't it? How do porcupines make love? Very carefully. Hindus learning to work with each other is a little bit like porcupines learning to embrace each other. But let's be gentle and tolerant of each other because we have to do it. Just get a small group of people in your own area, in your own knowledge circle, get them working together and see the impact, the cumulative impact of lots of individual actions is massive. You don't need me to remind you about the little squirrel and building the Ram Setu, right? We have got so many teachings, so much guidance. All that's required is for us to take the small steps that we can take. And let's embrace each other, because boy, do we need to embrace each other.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.